Good morning, everyone. We start just a couple minutes early, so we'll just do a little check in with everybody, make sure everybody's doing okay. Happy Saturday, Stephanie Saturday, yay! We've had a lot going through with our courses, so I definitely want to just make sure that we're all together. And this week we're going to talk about telling your story and writing your story. Um, it's, you'll hear me reference my story a lot because let's be honest, it's what I know, right? So you'll hear me talk about mine a lot as we go through the kind of the questions and how we prompt it. So it'll be super fun. Um, we're going to give it just a couple of minutes and we'll just start taking off. So I definitely encourage everyone to, comment in it. If you have questions, I'll try to address them as we go. I think sometimes that, prompts some really good conversation and then we all just get really good feedback too. And then, we all know I'm notorious for rabbit trailing. So I think it'll prompt us some really good stories in the end. Reminder to everybody, there is a survey link in the chats right here on our screen. Make sure that you do fill out our survey. That's what helps keep the funding for this program. And I have to tell you guys, this is like the only program like this in the country. It's amazing. I'm so honored to get to be a part of it. I have so much fun. I cannot wait till Saturdays, which sometimes makes for the longest week ever. Uh, but it's always so much fun. I really enjoy sharing with all of you. Um, Okay, so it's 10 o'clock. Let's start. Let's talk about telling our story today, you guys. For those of you who are new, I'm Stephanie. I'm with Guardian Accounting Services, and I was given the opportunity to work with you guys through the Square One Small Business Services, and I so love it. It's a great, great time. Forgive the big hair. It's a little humid today. Um, so, like I said, today we're going to talk about telling our story. Telling your story is going to help with your grant funding. It's going to help, honestly, it helps in a loan packet for your bank. It helps, goodness, we can spin it to help with sales, to help with, even just your personal branding and it telling your story. When we get our story down and get it really well written, it's incredible. Either you can pivot from this and you can spend this in so many different ways that once you have it to start from, you're just pushing stuff out left and right. So it's really, really nice. If you want our slides today, holler at Brian. He'll make sure that you guys get it. It's bcavender@mymcpl.org, and he'll get it sent over to you guys. Brian, if you want to flip the slide, you guys, I'm so sorry. I use Chrome and Chrome crashes on me every time when I send out my slides. So we're just going to work around it. You'll see me click to my other screen because I have my big ones up because, I don't have my glasses on. So what we're going to talk about, I want to make sure that when you speak to your story, I want to share the emotion. Your business, you're in business because it's yours, right? You're in business because you saw something that needed to be solved for. So we want to really trigger that emotional piece. We want people to feel what you felt, that drive, right? So the first question, and I'm going to give you, I think there's 8 questions and then kind of your goals. And these are going to prompt you as you go through. So why did you start doing what you do? Why? Like for you've probably heard me say it. I'll say it again. I worked in CPA firms and I was seeing, there were so many small businesses that couldn't afford to pay somebody $300 to $500 an hour to do their accounting. And they can't afford a $60,000, $70,000 a year controller. So it's like, there's so many underserved people and I got tired of it, and I got tired of my bosses having private jets and they're still making amazing money, but I was making a money hand over fist and we weren't serving the people that I speak to, so that's why I started what I do. You can see I get all fired up about it. What's your story? Why did you start what you do? Um, what triggered that? What was that moment that you were like, I have to do this? It's in my heart to do this. We want to make sure that we really um, encapsulate that and share that out with people. Um, what need did you see? We all go into business because there's a need, right? There's something to be served. Like I just said, small business is overlooked, and so many small business owners can't afford to pay, or, I mean, they're not positioned to be paying a bunch of extra tax. And why should they? If we can teach them their accounting or handle their accounting on the front end, they don't, if it's booked right, they're not going to pay that extra tax, right? I mean, it's just, you don't know what you don't know. That's the need I saw. Shannon, you guys, Shannon's joining us from Atlanta. Um, Shannon, you jump in as much as you want on this one too, because she's also in the same space that I'm in, so she can speak to a lot of this. What's your method? Your method for serving the need? So this one's kind of, I want to make sure that we talk about this because, maybe for me, my method is, I teach people how to use their QuickBooks, and I take over their accounting, and, I empower them. That's my method. Everyone's method is different. So how are you serving the need that you saw, that you went into business for? How are you serving that? That's a really big one. Shannon, you're on my screen, so I'm going to use you as an example. Shannon serves her need because, and she does courses. She does one-on-one training with people to teach them about personal finance and how to get out of debt, like that's how she serves the need. That's part of her story. And then who do you serve? For me, I serve small business, and that's such a broad term, small business. You can definitely hone it in more. For me, it's small business. It's folks up to, 10, $15 million in revenue. Do I have clients who are bigger? Sure. That's not who I market to. That's not who drives me, what as we go through this, when we're telling our story, we really want people to connect with us, the human, our business, and our passion. That's the thing. It's really important that they understand your passion, and we want to. I'm going to tell you guys what my coach said, and it's so true. You want to kind of speak to their soul. You want when they're reading it to be like, oh my gosh, I can connect, I can relate, I want to be a part of this, right? That's the thing. We want them to know the emotional piece to it, because people generally buy, when people buy something, it's more for an emotional need than a physical need, a tangible need. When they buy services, they're solving for an emotional gap, an emotional service. So like if you are trying to get your personal finances under control, again, poor Shannon. So you're going to call Shannon. She's going to teach you how to do a personal budget, how to get out of debt, like that's a personal emotional need, right? Versus that I need paper, Alicia said, see, Alicia, this is perfect. She said she's an artist and she struggles with this. So what she creates is more of a want than a need. However, I somewhat disagree with you, very kindly, of course. Art feeds my soul. Words, you'll see them always behind me. If you were to look on my walls, I always have signs up. Art and words feed my soul. So they give me that warm fuzzy. That's where we have to spin. We have to spin to connect to that warm fuzzy. People, they do buy art because it is a want, but they connect with that art when they buy it. Does that make sense? Alicia, definitely ping me if it doesn't make sense. Shannon says exactly. She'll teach anyone but she speaks to motivated young professionals because that's what she understands. That's her target, right? Um, man, Alicia, I for two reasons. I want to connect with you because, again, like I said, art speaks to my soul. I have a daughter who's was in art therapy in college, so I definitely want to connect. But I think that we can spin that, but and also, what does the art do for you? I mean, what triggers you? If you're, that's why people love some of the most famous artists, right? Because it came from their soul, it came from their heart and their passion. And that's what we want to portray. I know some businesses that may seem kind of, you're like, whatever, it's a lumber yard. How does that, speak to an emotional need? But everything we do is tied to language, and that language is tied to us as humans. It's the most incredible thing. I'm always reading. I'm always, I love words. Obviously, I'm a talker, but you'll see that as we go through. It's hard when you get through that first bit as we go through these trigger questions, but then you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's really amazing. But do holler at me. We can chat through too. Definitely put it in here. We've got some really great people on our video today that can pop in as well. It's what we're all here for, right? We're gonna take over the world together. It's my plan. Shannon, so right, what's getting a lot of people through this pandemic? Art, music, that human connection. So, and when people buy your art, they get to buy a piece of you. That's huge, right? Not in a creepy way, but that's amazing. They get to buy a little bit of what was in your heart and your head. And I love that. Love, love, love that. So Brian, do you want to flip to the next slide for me? Again, you guys, I am so sorry. My nose is really itchy. I'm trying not to be like, so how do you get started? How did you decide what was your breaking point? How did you say, enough is enough, I've got to do this. I cannot go through another day and not start my business. That sounds kind of aggressive, I know, but you guys, this is so powerful. When you share that trigger moment with people, that is a huge connector for people. When I tell people, look, I got so sick of making rich people richer and my people struggling, like I came home and I was sick over it. I mean, sick over it. I wouldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Like I couldn't, that connects with people. Some of my companies that I worked for had no integrity. I have to have integrity. I have to sleep at night. I'm a sleeper. So for me, that was my moment when I was like, forget it. I'm done. I have to go all in. I have to figure this out because I cannot do this any longer. That was my trigger, and so that's what I want you to share with people. Is I promise you, when you share that personal, what you couldn't do anymore, you just had to take action, that's when people, A, see the human side of you. B, they're building that trust in you as a personal brand. And C, they're like relating to you. When I'm in a room, like I do a lot of workshops. And so when I'm in a room of like real estate investors and construction guys, because that's my niche market, and I share that with them, they are all like, no, for real, that's it. That's that connection. And Shannon's right. People buy from people. They don't buy from a company. They want to know that you care. You're people. I just did an interview yesterday with a real estate group. And that's one of the things, like the most amazing compliment I've gotten is she said, Stephanie's going to care about your business as much as you do. That's the people, that connection. That's what you're building, right? So that's your story. That's how you started. Here's where we get into the kind of meat. And sometimes this is hard because, you're a new business. So I want you to think back, not just that since you started your business, I want you to think about your career and your adult life because so many times a new business hasn't had success yet. So I want you to think about your personal successes because we're going to incorporate that. Is what successes have you had? What successes have you had? It doesn't have to be just, hey, my business has been in, I'm new to business. I've been in for 3 years. Maybe you've been in for 6 months. Maybe you haven't had success yet, and that's okay. So I want you to think about back. What success have you had from, the beginning of your adult life? Maybe, so we're going to use, Alicia, we'll use you as an example. So maybe you had your art featured because somebody bought it, or maybe you were featured in a magazine before you started your business. Maybe you were working for somebody and you did a big project for somebody. That's your success. You did that project. It may not have been under your company, but you did that. It goes back to that personal, you are your brand, right? Shannon, for example, will say, hey, she's debt free, or she's slated to be debt free by this day. She does this. That's her personal success. And maybe that was before her business, and that's okay. That's your success. What have you accomplished? Because your story is all encompassing. Does that make sense, you guys? If not, if you think I'm talking crazy, pop it in there. You won't be the first, I promise. Um, we'll keep going. But then, how have you learned to do things better along the way? This is such a cool one. A lot of folks don't put this in their stories. And when you're writing for a grant, they need to know that you're evolving. They need to know that you're growing and learning as you go. We're always learning, right? I mean, if I can't even think of a day that I went through that didn't learn something new. Maybe that's because, I don't know, maybe I'm just twisted. But how have you learned along the way? Maybe you learned, what software works and what doesn't. Maybe you learned that you have a preferred art medium. Maybe you prefer acrylic and not, is it oil? Am I saying it right? I don't know. One of them took forever for my daughter to dry, and it drove me crazy, and ended up with dog hair in it. So, maybe you learned that, hey, I started with this client base, but this is where I'm at today because this is what makes sense. Shannon, you guys know I'm in a rabbit trail. So true. Use those past accomplishments as your success story from prior jobs. I mean, you did it. At the end of the day, you did it. You made that success happen. That's all you. So I want to make sure that you continue to share that. But what have you learned to do better? I've learned to sell better, learning it as I go. I didn't think I was good at sales. Now I just share my story and tell everybody how much I love what I do, and it seems to work. What have you learned to do better? It does two things. It shows them you're learning, you're growing, you're evolving as a business. It also shows them you're human. No, most people, I can't say nobody, but most people don't like to go into something and that person in the room that's like arrogant, like they always do right, they always know right, blah blah blah. Nobody wants to talk to them, right? I don't. I'm like, you stay in the corner. Same thing in business, same thing in writing our stories. If you come across as, I never did anything wrong, I always do everything right, I this, it's not going to fare well, if that makes sense. They want to connect with you as a human. That's super, super important as we go. But then, who benefits from your business. This one is kind of we're going to kind of piggyback on it. It kind of comes back around to that who do you serve kind of falls back in. And the reason we do it is we want to make sure that they understand, yes, that we know who we serve, but who benefits, who's taking away from it. Um, you are so right, Shannon. When people act like that they've never made a mistake, that they've never learned anything, you don't want to trust them. I don't, anyways. So totally agree with you. That's why I want to make sure our story is real. We don't want to give them some. Yes, we want it to be real. We want it to be accurate. Hold on. I've been wanting to post my first pieces I created to show how far I've come. Sounds like it would be a good thing. Yes, 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 yes. Do it. Alicia, that is so huge in your story. And what you can do, share it out with our group, grab some people, share it out with them. People who don't have that personal vest in it, and let them give you feedback. Let them give you like testimony on where they see you've come or whatever, and their first initial connection to your art. You can use that testimony later in other sales, but that'll kind of give you some fuel and feed for that for your story too. I mean, shoot, send it to me, message me, I'm in. But it's a really great thing because people want to see, look, when I started what I do, I did payroll, I did sales tax, I did, the transactional stuff. I didn't know the analytical piece to here's how we're going to budget, we're going to forecast, here's how I can find out your bleeding money, job costing, all these things that they fire me up, I won't lie to you, but I didn't know that then, right? 13 years later, I've learned a ton. And that's what they want to see. They want to see that as you're growing and evolving, my tech stack for my business has changed over 3 years. I went from a very simple, almost non-existent, I just conform to everything, to I have a very secure portal. We have this, we have this, we have this, because this is what I've learned. So they want to see how you're growing. And this, when we get to our next slide in a few minutes, you'll see this is going to play into that goals piece too that we'll talk about. I love it. Love it. Love it. Please, please, please share. I'm in. But let's go back to who benefits from your business, for your art. Who benefits from it? You're the person who gets the, has that warm fuzzy that you spoke to. You benefit from it. Shannon, who benefits from your services? Everybody. Truthfully, everybody. For me, small business benefits, but not only small business, but then the employees of said small business. I want you to think almost holistically with it, and that the snowball effect, right? You provide services or product, and then what do people do with that? How does it then that trickle forward, and it snowballs, right? I want you to think about it that way. The more we serve, the more we touch, the better, right? When we're talking grant funding or funding in general, that emotional connection, people want to, it's human nature to want to help, right? So if we lead and we share our story with almost with a servant's heart, in that here's what we're doing, here's who we're helping, that's a big thing. That's a really big deal. Thank you, Edna. That's so nice. So now let's flip it to probably the meatiest part. This is the part that I think most people struggle with. So we're going to spend a fair amount of time on it, you guys. Brian, if you'll flip to our next slide for me, please and thank you. What are your goals for your business? This one, when I say this to people, they're like, duh, I want to make money. Duh, I want to be successful. Okay, that's great. Let's go deeper. Um, what are your goals for the future of your business? Do you want to grow your business? And do you want to scale? Do you want to just have just enough? What do you want to do? Shannon, we'll see you in a little bit. Holler if you have any questions. Definitely catch us later. But um, where do you want to go? Like, I want you to be very explicit with that when you think through that. This part, you're going to start separate from your story because this can take some time and this is kind of meaty. But I want you to think about where you want to take your business. Where does this, where do you see yourself? I ask people all the time, where do you want to be in 5 years? And they're like, well, I want to pay my bills. I want to do this. Oh, Shannon, yay, she's staying. She's going to use this later. Even better. But people, for your goals, I want you to think really, really clearly. I want you to put it measurable. So we're going to talk SMART goals. And I've been using this since I was in college. For those of you who don't know, SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. This is for many reasons. This is so that you can really pinpoint that goal, right? And so that's what I want you to think about, your goals for your business, so we can drop it into your story. For our specific, maybe you want to increase revenues to 50,000 a month. Maybe you want to have 13 more employees by this time next year. What very specifically do you want for your business? But again, I need you to be specific. You can't just say, I want to be successful. I want to thrive. That's not good enough. I want you to be specific. But now we need to put a measurement on it. I want to increase my sales. So that's our specific, by $50,000 a month. That's our measurable, right? I need it to be specific and measurable. Now, the next piece, the attainable. Attainable, this piece kind of, I'm so conflicted, you guys. I go from attainable being, yes, can I reach it, to I flip back to like Grant Cardone and the 10X rule. If I set my goal here and I only make it to here, then I've made it that far. But if I set my goal to here as an attainable goal and I only make it to my goal, I shorted myself, right? So I really struggle with this attainable piece. So I'm going to give you both sides of the spectrum. You have to do what makes sense to you. I refuse to dream in my pay grade. Refuse. I will not do it. And in my story, when I share it with people or when I go for funding or any of that, I can't. I just can't. Now, do I say that I want to make $1 million a month? No. But if I say I'm going to be real candid. If I say I want a $10,000 a month, I'm going to make it higher. $10,000 a month is great. I want a $50,000 a month, and I want consistent $50,000 months. I don't want it to just be 10. Does that make sense? What it has to be what suits you and what your goal is. So that's obviously, that would be, mine may be different than Shannon's or Edna's or Alicia's. Mine may be different. But I want you to think about that. And just because attainable is there doesn't mean you have to say realistic. I don't want you don't dull your shine in your goal because somebody may think it's not realistic. I need it to be relevant to you in that piece. Then your goal needs to be relevant. It needs to be relevant to your business. This is our SMART goal, right? I don't want it to be, hey, I wake up early every day, Yeah, that doesn't really do any good. It needs to be, we want it to be relevant to our business and time based. I think that's probably the second one I struggle with most because I am not patient. I want to do everything and I want to do it now. I really, I mean, that's just my personality. So time based, set a time on it. Again, what I don't want you to do though, as you're setting these goals, I don't want you to be discouraged. I don't want you to think, well, because I want to do this, this is not going to happen. Set those goals, set them as high as you want. But that's our first piece. Before we put it into the business piece, we have to set these goals. I can seriously talk for days on goals. Shannon said, right, put your goal, your reasonable goal down, multiply it. Just multiply it. You can go with what's first and then go back to it and multiply it. The goals piece, we're going to go a little off topic. I want you to, when you get that goals piece, put it somewhere you see it all the time. I want you to go back to it. I am not a coach. I would love to be, but I'm not. I mean, I'm not a coach, you guys. I just help people. But the reason I want you to do that, when we see our goals all the time, we keep them current, we revisit them, it's going to keep you on track for your goals. It's going to keep you moving forward, but it's also going to let you stay connected to your goals. When you see, here, right here, guys, I keep it thumbtacked to my wall. When you see something has changed in your goal, maybe your goal got bigger, maybe you met it, maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I'm killing it, I need to up it. Maybe you changed who you serve. I want you to keep that current and I want you to revisit it. And I know it sounds really like super dreamy, but I promise you it will keep you grounded and it will keep you motivated. Keep it here. I mean, and mine get crazy. Like, I mean, crazy, you guys. I want 50 rental properties on, I want to diversify. I have this. Like, I have dates on everything. And they're not, some of them are for me and my fiance. They're not just for me, but keep them here. Keep them present. When that shifts, you're going to update your story. You don't want to give a story that's outdated. You don't want to give a story that's no longer relevant. And you don't want to give a story that says, hey, my goals are XYZ, but you blew past that 6 months ago. You know what I mean? We want to make sure that you're updating that story and updating those goals as we go. It's just so right. Just like your budget. That's so Shannon. I know it does sound dreamy, you guys. I know it. It's, my friends and family sometimes are like, you are so head in the clouds, but it matters. What you see every day matters. What you fill your space with matters. So I want you to put your goals on paper. Maybe it's a dry erase board. I don't know. Maybe it's your computer screen. I still like paper. But I want you to put them up there. So now, back to where we were. With our goals, we've made our list. We've got it together. We've got it on our wall. We know where we want to be, how we want to get there. We have our goals, right? Now I want you we're going to take that over to our story. We're going to write about that in our story. Here's where we came from. Here's where we are today. Here's where we want to be. When we're applying for grants, it's really, really important for them to see that whole picture, where we came from, where we are, where we're going. They want to know that what they're putting money into is going somewhere, right? They don't want to just go rogue and give it. Um, exactly. You're right, Shannon. We Shannon and I have the same business coach actually, and she always says, "I'm not better than you. I'm just more obsessed with my success." I want you guys to say that. I want you to keep that in mind. It's like the best thing. Um, and keep that in mind when you're doing your goals and we're writing our story. I want you to. I know I say I want a lot, you guys. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to sound bossy. Um, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we tell them. We want them to see the whole picture again. Like, what did we learn? Where did we come from? So where we are today, where we came from, and where we want to go with our goals, our SMART goals, so they can see. People pay attention to that. That SMART goals is like global, right? They're going to be looking for those triggers: measurable, attainable, relevant, specific, and the time frame you have for that. Maybe you want to build a solar farm. Maybe you want to build, let's Alicia. Maybe we want an art studio. Maybe you want to have your stuff in the studio where people like, we can host high-end parties and people can come in and buy your art and just, change lives, right? Um, we want to see all of that measurable in our goal. Then the part that so many people forget in these grant applications or even in their story, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get there? Right? So they want to know, they want to see, okay, I know where I'm going. I know where I want to go. They need to know how you get there. I just know how important what you're saying is. I don't hate you. I could never hate you. Thank you. Keep saying it. The reason I say how you get in there, when I meet with a new client, first thing I ask them, what are your goals? And usually they're like, I want to not worry about payroll. Okay, great. But what are your goals? When I know what your goals are from a financial standpoint, I can help you get there, right? I can give you the roadmap. No different on these grant applications and writing our stories. People want to know how you get in there. You don't have to say, I turn left on South Street. You don't have to give them that detail, but you need to give them how. How do you get there? How do you get to that space? How do we get Alicia to an art gallery? How do we get to that space? How do we get Shannon to coach every millennial in the US? How are we getting there? We want to take that trail and get there. People, so for an analogy, for lack of a better term, I jump in the car with my kid and I'm like, hey, let's go to the mall. She's like, okay, Mom, how do I get there? She doesn't know how to get there, right? So when I say, let's go do this, I'm going to say, cool, jump on the highway. We're going to go north. I need to tell her how we're going to get to where I want to go. Same exact principle. I know it sounds really trivial, you guys, but it's legit. It is no joke. How you getting there? That's, so I'm going to pause for a moment. You guys, what questions do you guys have, or where are you struggling from a goal perspective and how you're getting there? This is such a good dialogue and such a good space. Like I said, I could talk for days on this part, but I want to make sure that we're bouncing off of one another and we're serving one another in this space right now. Are you struggling with anything? Is there something that we can collectively talk about? Is there something you have questions for me? I've sat on a lot of boards over the years, and I've petitioned for funds. I've done fundraising. I helped raise almost $250,000 to build a sports complex once. And you go into these like committees and you have your grant application. And this is long before I was in accounting, you guys. And this was just me standing in front of, at the time, probably a dozen people saying, hey, here's what we're trying to do. And we had it mapped out because let's face it, I'm a Patty planner. I want to know. I make checklists just to mark stuff off, right? So we had it mapped out, what it was going to cost, how we were going to get it, the funds, what we were going to do with the request we had asked for, all of that. And bear in mind, we weren't a nonprofit. It was the freaking city perk board. But we knew what we needed. There was a need, right? We knew the people we would serve. And all I did, you guys, again, Patty Planner, I just wrote it all out. And I stood there in front of people. And bear in mind, we're talking, oh gosh, I'd say almost 20 years ago now. I'm standing in front of people, and that wasn't my thing then. I was ready to throw up. My face was all flush and red. It was a hot mess. But all I did was just share my story. Here's the timeline. Here's where we want to break ground. Here's what we want to do. Here's who we're going to serve. Here's how we're going to fund it. Here's the revenue it's going to generate going forward. I mean, that's a good thing to put in, right? I mean, as you're sharing your goals and how you're going to get there, they want to know who's paying for it, right? And most grant lenders, or funders, they don't want to be your only source of revenue. So they want to know how we're getting there, right? And I just laid it all out. And it's so funny because it was just my personality type. Fast forward 10 years, when I get into accounting and get into the nonprofit space and in the grant space, and I'm like, holy cow, you guys, this is what I did. I just did because that's what made sense in my head, right? It wasn't, it wasn't anybody gave me the tools. I wish, and we did. We built it in a year. We got the funding. We made it happen, which was amazing. You can make it happen too. We just, the biggest thing, and I will never forget, they were sitting in a U. It wasn't the United Way. It was one of the community groups, though, there in Pleasant Hill. They're sitting in a U shape, and they were like, well, we'll give you guys $50,000. You did really good. And we talked about it, and it was like the most powerful thing because I'm like, oh, yeah, so it pays to be a Patty planner. I love Excel spreadsheets. That was before I even knew Excel. I always have stuff. I like my lists, and so having it together put us ahead of the other projects. And we weren't a nonprofit. The other projects were. And by no means am I saying, let's take from the nonprofits, because that's not me. But what I'm saying is you can play in that same space as a for-profit. There's a ton of money out there. You just have to look for it. Bank of America has a whole foundation website for all their customers who have foundations that agree to be on there, and they fund stuff from build a cell tower to arts and theater to clothing homeless people to, you name it, right? There's just so much out there but when we get our story together and when we have a very clear story, but that tugs at the heart, you're going up that list, man. And you're playing in the same space. You really are. These things matter, and small business matters. So there's a lot out there for small business. So again, I know I'm rambling, you guys, and I can ramble for days. So I don't see any questions yet about the SMART goals and about just trying to make that plan for where you're going. What I would say, as you're putting these together, the way I started it for myself was I take these questions and again, you guys holler at Brian if you want them. And I just put them in, on paper, write out the questions and space them apart. And then I put the answers. Once I have those questions and those answers, Then I can put it together that makes sense and it's a structured format and not this brain just like, da, 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 because I want it to flow well. I want to make sure that it's my story, but that it flows properly and it's something somebody else can read and it makes sense. I cannot stress enough. And it's funny because when Morgan hears this later, she's going to be like, oh my gosh, yes. Proofread your story before you share it out. Do not, please, for the love of Pete, make sure that you have your punctuation. Make sure that you're using two, and two properly, and there, and there, and things like that. It's really, really important that you have good grammar. Write it like you should, not like we speak. Sometimes we use slang and stuff, and it is our story, but we want to make sure that it reads well. That's really, really important. That's one of the things that I see a lot. Whenever I coach people or help people with and again, I'm not really a coach, but you know what I mean. When we're talking through stuff and bouncing stuff off one another, and I'm reviewing stuff to help them put together a grant packet, I need you to use good English, good grammar. It's really important. And it's one thing I learned I think one of the first things I learned in my first college class was read it out loud exactly as you wrote it. And I think I talked about that in our first week together. Do it. Because our brains naturally flip stuff. So read it out loud. Read it out loud just the way that it's written. So then you're going to catch stuff. I say it to the kids at least weekly and with their school stuff. I'm like, listen, you're raised better than that. Get it together. So it's really important that it's well written. It's really important that it's your story, but that we want to make sure everything's measurable and that, we tell it from beginning to where we see it going. And again, change it. Man, you hit that goal 6 months ago. Let's go update it. It is not a bad thing. I want you to keep that current. We're going to talk a little bit. Brian, do you want to flip this slide when you get a sec for me? We're going to take that story, and I'm going to touch briefly on this part, but not only for the grant piece, you guys, that story can help transition you into sales too. It can go from the funding, the grants, the loans, startups, things like that. But it can go from that into our personal brand, into our sales. It's so funny, and I'll share everything as I learn it, you guys. Seriously, I told you I didn't think I was good at sales, and my fiance always said, "Just tell your story, Stephanie. Tell your story." I was like, "You're delusional." He was like, "No, you love what you do. Tell your story. It matters." I cannot agree more with what he said. I have taken my story, and it's what you guys can do too. Put it on your website. Put it on your about section in your Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, wherever it is that you are. Share it in your about section. Let people find you and connect to you. And again, it sounds very trivial. It is so reality, you guys. I mean, if you take that story and you flip it, it can flip into your sales page, one of your sales pages on your website. Our story is what we know the best, right? It's not a script. It's not a bunch of crap that we've, put together. It's our story. When we share that with people, when we share our successes and failures, when we share where we came from to where we are today, that's what resonates with people, not just on paper for that grant funding, but from a sales perspective too. I would have told you that that is the biggest load of junk 6 months ago. I would have told you that. But when I tell you that I just share it I share how I learned. I share my mantra from QuickBooks and technology. You can't break it, just click. My IT guy hates me. But when I share that stuff with people, I'm real. And then that's when they wanted to work with you. When you share, Alicia, when you share where your head was at when you made a painting or a piece of art, when you share that with people, they're connecting with you. When they're connecting with you, it goes back to that emotional space that then they're like, I want that. I, you just served a need you didn't even realize. Does that make sense? It's it sounds so basic, you guys, but it really, really works. I jump on some of the strangest interviews sometimes and I just tell my story. And I have gotten so many jobs, so many contracts. I am writing a chapter to be in a bestseller selling author's book this summer, just because my story. It's just I. It's my story. Our everybody has a story, whether they're in business or not. Where you came from, how you got out, whatever. Right? It's your story. It matters, and it again, not to sound all dreamy, but it does matter. And that's what moves people. When you touch people, when you move people, that's where you go up in the grant list. That's where you get the funding or more customers and clients, whatever. That story matters. Your story matters to somebody. Your business matters to somebody. The people you serve matter. And all of that is what, when you put it on paper, when you put it in your grant application, that's it. When so many funders, I'll kind of rabbit trail again into the process. They'll go through the initial, make sure you have all the documents, the applications filled out, whatever, right? So they'll go through all that. Then they set them all out. Oh, sorry. Then they'll take and they'll everybody who did what they're supposed to do, followed the instructions. They'll go out into a category, like lay them out, if you will. We're gonna pretend like we have a big table. Then generally they'll group them by dollar amounts, unless it's like a $50,000 grant and everybody gets to apply for it. Then they're going to group it by they've got their criteria. You gave them the supporting documents that they asked for, so you follow the directions. So if you didn't, you're off the table. So you follow the directions. Next, they're going to go through, they're going to read stories, right? The person who has the complete story, the person who has connected with the reader, they're going to go on one end of the table. The person who says, I want this, I need this, I'm going to do this, that's it, they're going to go to the other end of the table. They don't know their story, they don't know their history, where they came from, how they got there, what they're going to do with it. So we're going to take them off the table, right? So now, theoretically, we're going to say we're down to 5. Now they're going to take those last 5 and read their story. We are all humans. Humans are reading the stories. It's not going through some AI, But then they're going to look at our story. We've connected with these 5. The one that's written well, and the one that gives the clear picture that connects. Again, we're all human. You want to feel good about what you're doing. When you're going for grant funds, the funder wants to feel good about what you're doing. When you have a clear, defined story and all of your supporting documents, they can be confident and you know what you're doing. By that confidence, they know that you're going to comply with any of the follow-up requests. You're going to make sure that the funds are used properly. Like you built that connection and that confidence with your story. It's crazy, right? But because you were real and you connected, you built that confidence. That's what gets you on the table and pushes everybody else off. I mean, it sounds, again, I know it sounds very basic, but it is reality. That's exactly how it goes. Does anybody have any questions? Man, I'm almost at an hour. This happens every time, you guys. I could keep you all day. That would be mean to you. So I won't. Brian, do you want to flip to our last slide? Thank you. I want to remind everybody, definitely there's the survey. Make sure you fill it out. Thank you, Brian. That's what keeps us going. That's what keeps the funding for this amazing group. The numbers this group generates is incredible. I absolutely love following it and just watching the numbers go up every week, and people are watching these videos after the fact. And I've learned so much from some of the videos. Like, I'm using Canva now. Just saying, I've learned so much from this group. You cannot go wrong with what they're offering, you guys. This is amazing. So do fill out the survey. That helps keep it going. There's lots of other things that the library is offering right now. So do keep a pulse on it and check it out. There's a lot of really great opportunities. And if we're not leveraging this time when things are slow for most people and learning, we're wasting time, you guys. I don't like to waste time. I wish. No, I don't. I have to say I wish things were slowing down, but no, that's not true. I love that it's busy. I know, right? Canva's so cool. Alicia, can we just talk about that? It's amazing. Like, I literally log into it every day. Just, I don't know why, but I've learned so much. It's so cool. And you know what, Shannon, you're right. And that's why I say small business is my passion. And it does. This stuff isn't just for the grant funding. It's just good practice, good business. You'll hear me say it over and over, businesses die from within. So I want to make sure we all have that good foundation, right? Darnell asked if we can repost the survey link. If you scroll up like 4 comments, you'll see the link as well. And then I'll have Brian load it back out there as well. If you guys have questions, if you want to reach out to me, you're like, hey, just can you look over my story? Yes, I will. Reach out to Brian or Morgan at the library. They will put you in touch with me. We want to make sure that we're here to help. It's what we do. It's what I love. It's definitely what I love. So we can definitely do that. And you guys, again, if you guys see, like, as you're through the city, or, for those of you who aren't in Kansas City, I encourage you to look them up. But the Ewing and Miriam Kaufman Foundation, amazing. They're who funds this program, and it's a really big opportunity for a lot of small business. They do what I do. They love people. I just want to help that underserved group of us, the small business folks. I've seen a lot of people who are in that higher end of the small business, get the funding and stuff that's out from the government, but there's still huge space that's not eligible. So we want to make sure we help in any way that we can. Let's get the grants, you guys. It's money sitting there. That's why they put it there. There's foundations that have to release a certain amount of funds every year. And why not be you? Why not have your organization be the one that gets those funds, right? I mean, don't leave it on the table. I'm not a fan of leaving money on the table. You're so welcome. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that again as well. Does anybody have any last minute questions? I think we may be almost out of the free one-on-ones, but if you want one, jump in there. We'll add it. I got it. Jump in there. Let's fix it. Let's help everybody. No questions? Darnell, what's your business? I know what Alicia does. I know what Shannon does. I think I was. Edna, what do you do too? I want to know. I'm always curious. for two reasons. One, because I love to connect with people, but two, because I like to be the best resource that I can for people in my network, in my community. Oh, see, that's my space. Realtor, yay. I want to make sure that I have good connections to share with people. So that's why I always ask. I try to know as many people as I can and be like a one-stop shop, if you will. We just did a really great podcast with Mary Darnell. If you haven't seen it, message me and we'll get it over to you. It's really good. Good stuff in the realtor space. Really good stuff. Let's see. Oh, I'm not sure I can click on Edna's face to see. Let me go over here. Like I said, I'm always super curious. And you guys, if you have any questions, even accounting related as we're going through this, and you're like, man, I just really want to know, shoot me a note. I just try to answer as many questions as I can. Sometimes there's nothing worse than not knowing or getting really junky information. I always tell my kids that. That's what I don't want. I don't want you to get junky information. I want you to get the right stuff. So, if there's something I can help you with, do let me know. I'm happy to. That's what we do. That's why I get to be part of this great group, right? Let's see. Oh my gosh. Alicia, glass artist. And I love that you just said multi-passionate. I'm in a rabbit trail for a second. See what I do? I watched the 10X conference, and Marie, I will find her name and post it here in just a little bit. She said she had so many passions as an entrepreneur that when she finally spun her label, because sometimes we as entrepreneurs get bad raps too, just the label. But she said she was a multi-passionate entrepreneur, and that changed her mindset because it was a positive. So I love that you just said you're a multi-passionate glass artist. This is so cool. I can't wait to learn more. That's amazing. I'll have to have a shelf because I have giant dogs and they would destroy stuff, but I'm down. And I love that. Darnell, buy and sell with Darnell. That's amazing. Let's work on your story. Let's do it together. You're in a safe space, right? You're amongst peers who are also small business owners. So definitely ask away. That's what we're here for. Well, you guys, it's 11. It's my time to dip, I guess. But if you have questions, reach out. Definitely let's connect on Facebook. Let's share out information. Do fill out the survey. Do ask Brian if you want those questions. Shoot him an email. I'll send you the packet. And then, if you, like I said, if you guys want help on your story, let's keep working together. There's so many programs. I'm sure I'll see some of you at some of the other programs as I learn more about Canva and all the other things. They even do QuickBooks, you guys. They have so many great trainings. So let me know if there's anything I can do for any of you. And otherwise, we'll see you next Saturday for Stephanie Saturday. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.